The Valder Beebe Show, interviewing today's change makers. Find more on our FM broadcast at KKVI 98, podcast kkvidfw.com, streaming youtube.com/Valder Beebe Show, and ValderBeebeShow.com. Good day and welcome back to the Valder Beebe Show. You know, the weather, we've just gotten through Hurricane Francine, and thankfully, you people in Texas, it didn't impact you as much, but in other outlying states, it was just rough on Louisiana and other places. So I've got an expert. I've got Richard Folkman. He's going to talk about flood insurance claims. I think it's a really good time to talk about that. He's an expert on global claims with Crawford & Company. Richard, welcome to the Valder Beebe Show for the first time.
Thank you for having me on this morning.
Well, I think this is a really good time. There's never a better time than when something has happened. It's in the sight of people and they're thinking about it. So let's talk about flood insurance policy. We all think, especially if you own a house and you got that expensive insurance, you just think you're covered. But I don't think it works like that, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's a gap there. There's a gap between homeowners policy and both flood and earthquake insurance. We don't have earthquake issues out here in Texas, but flood insurance is not included in your standard homeowners policy.
So those are two separate policies. It's like our auto insurance doesn't cover our homes and vice versa. And I want to be clear on this. That's why I'm driving the point home. So you have to have specific flood or earthquake insurance?
That's correct. Yeah, you have to have a separate policy for that. They're excluded. And unfortunately, most of America doesn't realize that. Most people that have flood insurance are the people that are forced to have it by the mortgage company. Flood insurance is available to almost everybody because flooding happens in every state in the country. And if you're not forced to have it, it means you're not in a special flood hazard area, which is the expensive flood policy. You can get a general flood policy for, $500, $600, $700 a year that can give you up to $250,000 in coverage if your home was damaged to that level.
What are you seeing now with the current weather conditions happening to us homeowners and people in general on this planet?
Well, there's been some massive changes. The weather's done some remarkable things. Beryl this year, we had the first Category 5 hurricane hit very early in the year, and it just ramped up in a hurry. And I think back to Hurricane Ida in 2021, which hit Louisiana much the same way that Francine just did. It was stronger, though, and it dissipated for a minute, and then it reinvigorated itself and just rained havoc on New York City. And that could happen here in Texas. We have something come into the Gulf that, with the weather patterns that are going on, you'd think, okay, it's not going to reach us, but it can merge with another storm, and suddenly we've got a problem here in Dallas where we're flooding.
When you decide that you're going to get flood insurance, should you take inventory first, or how does that work? You just get it and they cover everything?
Well, that's a good point. First, you have to make sure that you have the right coverage. So you need a flood policy for your house, but you need one for your personal property as well. There's two different policies there. And it's always a good idea, whether you just have homeowners insurance or you have a combination of the two, is make sure that you take a good inventory of what you have in your house. So go through once a year and take pictures. If you make large purchases, make sure that you keep those receipts in a place that they're going to be readily available to you. I'd recommend just taking photos of them and store them in your phone so that you have those, because when you're doing personal property, they're going to look at the age and condition of items to determine how much money you're going to get. So if you have a receipt that said, I just bought this 6 months ago, that's pretty much close to brand new. And that's going to really help you in the long run. And if it's all washed away or blown away, it's going to be hard to do that.
I want my audience to know I'm talking to Richard Folkman, a flood insurance claims expert of America and global disasters. Richard, you said something that I need to ask you about. You said you need to have flood insurance on your house and your personal property too.
Yeah, they're two separate policies, and they have two separate deductibles. And if you're a renter, you can just get personal property insurance, contents insurance, to make sure that you have coverage too, because renters don't think about that, but you can get flood insurance for your personal property. You can't get it for the building because you don't own it, but you can get it for your personal property.
So when you have this disaster, you're shaken up, first of all, especially if you got to evacuate and come back. I can't imagine how that is. How do you start to assess the damage so you can talk coherently to the insurance company?
Well, first and foremost, safety's priority. Make sure you're out of there. Some people try to ride out those storms, and it can be pretty scary. The first thing you want to do is take photos. You need to document the damage that happened before you start your cleanup process. So go through the house and get pictures in every room. It shows both the personal property that's in it, shows the condition of the room. Then you need to get the wet stuff out. The flood coverage in particular doesn't cover mold. It's the homeowner's responsibility to mitigate the damage, get the wet out so that it doesn't start to grow mold. And that's built into the policy. That's part of the federal policy. So that's what you want to do. And you really want to get the things that are fabric out first, because mold starts growing in 24 hours. The stuff that really starts to get it quickly is anything that's fabric-related, carpeting, clothes, mattresses, things like that. And then you get to the other things. And you need to take an inventory of your personal property as you take it out. Go by room, take pictures, make a list before you dispose of that. But always talk to your insurance adjuster. They're really there to help you. People think they're on the insurance company side. No, they're there to serve a purpose, and they're there to help you through that process, give you the advice that you need, kind of help you look out for those things that can harm you, whether it be unscrupulous people that try and take advantage of you, or that you make the mistake of throwing something away before you document it correctly and then they can't pay for it. You want to talk to the adjuster as soon as you can and get their guidance.
Richard, this is heart-wrenching just talking about it, never lived through it, and I am just so saddened. I could just imagine. I see the news where people are picking through their things on the news and their cherished mementos. It's just very, very sad. How do we get some information? How can we be smarter before maybe this happens to us? Because the likelihood of climate change, weather change, all of those changes, somehow, some way, we may get caught in that.
There's some good advice if you go to FEMA's website and you go to floodsmart.com. There's a lot of good information in there that you can use to help you prepare and know what to do. FEMA's there, and FEMA's there to help you, but a lot of people think that FEMA's going to take care of them if they go through an event, and that's not what FEMA's there to do. You may get a few $1,000s to help you with your cost of living expense for a short period of time, but they're not going to come in and rescue you financially. That's why you need to have flood insurance.
Yeah, they mostly work, to me, on disasters like the Red Cross does when you've had a fire or something like that. They are there to kind of stabilize you, and then they have to move on, right?
Correct. Yeah, they only come out if it's declared as a disaster, a national, large-scale disaster. The president comes in and declares it. Other than that, it may not be a big enough storm. It still impacts you. It's just decimated your life, but there's not going to be any assistance from them.
I'm going to wrap up, Richard, with this question. Since you are the expert globally and here in America, what do you see for the weather in the future as related to human beings?
We're seeing some anomalies that have never been seen before, and I think that that's going to continue. The temperature is continuing to rise. It's shifting a lot of things on the planet. I've seen global events throughout the world that are just amazing to see what's happening between tornadoes and flooding, and it's all weather related. There's definitely been a shift, and so don't think because it hasn't happened before that it's not going to happen in the future.
That is such great advice coming from you, Richard, an expert. We really appreciate you stopping by and educating us on the Valder Beebe Show. The Valder Beebe Show, produced by PIP Productions, hosted by Valder B, technically engineered by Jazz Beebe. Sponsors, Keyband Productions, The Food IQ Girls, and KKVI FM, Greenville, Texas.